being fearlessly fearless is part of the journey of being willing to be creative. Sometimes we have to be willing to allow ourselves to be so scared to do something that it pushes us exactly in the direction that we most need to go. But sometimes it takes a lot for us to get there. That fearlessly fearless idea comes from being able to do in spite of the fear that exists in the doing. Being so convicted in the thought that you can't imagine not doing it. But being so scared about the thought of how to do it just is that thing that compels you to move forward. Sometimes not having the answers, any of the answers at all, is a great way to move forward. Sometimes having too much insight, too many answers, can hinder us, prevent us from just jumping in and finding out along the way. I think that's where the pivot comes in, and when the pivot becomes so important. If something isn't working quite the way you wanted it to, there is still a pivot that exists. The potential and the possibility to change it up, to switch directions, to not be focused or fixated on that one thing, but maybe being able to morph it, scaling up or scaling down. Maybe slightly changing direction. It doesn't mean that you are casting aside your ideas or your thoughts. It just means that maybe there's a different way to come at it. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, that there's always the pivot. The pivot is there. The pivot exists to help us see our potential. So, lean into the pivot if things aren't working for you, and realize that you always have the potential to change. That you can, if you don't like where you are, fix it, change it, move it. Do what you need to do to make it work for you. And if that seems impossible, you can start small, whatever that might be. And have the fearlessness and be fearlessly fearful that if it's something that scares you that much and moves you to that extent, it's probably worth something. Things like that usually are. Any journey is an opportunity to become fearless in what you're doing and who you are and how things show up for you. Allow yourself the freedom to become who you were still meant to be. And don't get caught up in the minutia of what everyone else thinks, because in the end, it's ultimately your journey. So remember that. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Until then,